How many times have you texted first, explained yourself when no one asked, shown up for people who would not cross the street for you? How many nights have you stared at a screen waiting for a reply that never came from someone you would have answered in seconds? You kept giving, they kept taking, and the more available you made yourself, the less they seemed to notice you were there. Not because something is wrong with you, because you were violating a law of human nature that has been true since the first two people walked the earth. What is always available is never valued. What disappears becomes precious. This is not manipulation. This is not a game you play to win someone's attention. This is one of the oldest and most misunderstood principles in human psychology. A principle the ancient Stoics practiced not to control others, but to honor themselves. And the effect it has on the people around you is so powerful that once you truly understand it, you will never chase another person as long as you live. For your entire life, you have been conditioned to believe that caring means pursuing, that love means constant availability, that loyalty means showing up regardless of whether your presence is valued or even noticed. You text first. You explain yourself to people who did not ask for an explanation. You shrink your schedule to fit inside someone else's. You treat your attention like it is unlimited and freely distributed. And the more you give it away, the less anyone values what they received. Not because they are cruel, because the human mind is wired to pursue what might vanish and take for granted what is guaranteed. Today we are going deep into 8 Stoic principles that explain why strategic withdrawal transforms the way people perceive you. These are not tricks. These are truths about the architecture of the human mind, backed by 2,000 years of philosophy and confirmed by everything modern psychology has discovered since. They will change not just how others treat you, but how you treat yourself. If this channel is building something valuable in your life, subscribe. It is free. And do not leave early, because the last principles are the ones that tie every thread together. Let us begin. Principle number 1. Scarcity creates value. Abundance breeds contempt. Seneca observed this law operating in every dimension of Roman life. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves endlessly." And the inverse is equally true. It is not the person who gives too little who is valued, but the one who makes what they offer rare. Think about the most valued resources in human history. Gold, diamonds, clean water in the desert. They are not valuable because of some inherent magic. They are valuable because there is not enough of them. If gold covered every hillside like grass, it would fascinate no one. If diamonds were as common as gravel, no one would fight for them. Scarcity is the mechanism that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. This is not opinion. This is physics applied to psychology. Now apply that principle to yourself. When you are always available, always reachable, always first to respond, always the one who rearranges their life to accommodate someone else's convenience, you become abundant. And abundance triggers a psychological effect that feels deeply personal but is actually universal. The more reliably present you are, the less someone needs to value that presence. Not because they are ungrateful, because the brain is engineered to pursue what might disappear and ignore what is guaranteed. This is not cruelty. This is wiring. Marcus Aurelius did not chase the approval of senators or generals. He did not campaign for the admiration of his court. He focused on governing with integrity and building his own character. And the people around him gravitated toward him precisely because he was not trying to pull them closer. His self-sufficiency was magnetic, not because it was performed, because it was real. And the human mind can detect the difference between performed independence and genuine wholeness faster than any lie detector ever built. Here is the practice. The next time you feel the impulse to reach out to someone who has not reached out to you, pause. Not from spite, from self-respect. Ask yourself one question. Am I reaching out because I genuinely want to, or because I am afraid of what their silence means? If the answer is fear, let the silence continue. It will tell you more than any conversation ever could. Principle number 2. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." When you withdraw, not in anger, not as punishment, but as a natural expression of your own completeness, something remarkable happens in the space you leave behind. It begins to echo, and in that echo the other person is forced to confront a question they never had to ask while you were standing in front of them. What did this person mean to me? When you are always present, people adapt to you the way they adapt to the temperature of a room. You become background, comfortable, expected, invisible in the way that oxygen is invisible. But when you disappear, the shape of your absence becomes visible for the first time. They notice the silence where your voice used to be. Feel the gap where your attention used to fill. Remember the warmth they only recognize now that it is gone. This is not strategy. This is the architecture of human attention. We are wired to notice change. When something constant vanishes, the brain flags it as significant. When something reliable becomes uncertain, the mind begins assigning it more weight than it ever did before. You did not become more valuable by leaving. You revealed the value that was always there, but that familiarity had made invisible. Like a painting that is only truly seen the day after it is taken off the wall. Epictetus understood this at the root. He said wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The person who does not need the relationship to feel whole carries a gravity that the desperate person never can. And that gravity pulls others in, not through force, through the quiet, irresistible power of someone who is complete on their own. Principle number 3. Chasing broadcasts desperation. Stillness broadcasts power. Here is the truth that will sting the most, because you have been doing the opposite your entire life. Every time you chase someone who is pulling away, you communicate the exact opposite of what you intend. You think you are showing love. They register neediness. You think you are being loyal. They perceive dependency. You think you are fighting for something worth keeping. They feel suffocated by something they cannot escape. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." And the person who chases is the embodiment of anxious dependence. Their peace is held hostage by a reply. Their mood swings on a notification. Their entire emotional architecture is constructed on someone else's willingness to participate. That is not love. That is a hostage situation where you are both the negotiator and the captive. Marcus Aurelius led armies across continents. He never chased a single person's loyalty. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." The person pulling away is not causing your pain. Your attachment to their presence is. And the moment you release that attachment, something paradoxical occurs. The desperation evaporates. The anxiety dissolves. And in their place stands someone who is perfectly content with or without the other person's participation. That contentment, that calm self-possession, that is the most attractive quality a human being can radiate. Drop this in the comments right now. I do not chase. I attract. What is meant for me will find me. Principle number 4. People value what they earn, not what they are given. Epictetus said difficulties show a person's character, and the same law applies to every connection you will ever build. the relationship that was earned through mutual effort, through shared struggle, through the deliberate choice to show up when it was not easy. That relationship holds a weight the effortless connection never will. When you give your time, your energy, your attention without it being reciprocated or earned, you rob the other person of the experience of valuing it. Not deliberately, but the effect is the same. A gift that cost nothing to receive is stored in the mind differently than one that required genuine investment. Think about something you worked months to achieve versus something someone handed you. The achievement carries weight, emotion, memory. The gift sits on a shelf gathering dust. Your attention works the same way. When it is abundant and free, it gathers dust. When it must be earned, it becomes the thing they think about at 3 in the morning. Marcus Aurelius earned the respect of an entire empire not through unlimited generosity, but through the consistent demonstration that his attention, his trust, his regard were reserved for those who merited them. He wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Distributing yourself without discrimination is a form of insanity. It devalues the very thing you are trying to offer until the offering means nothing at all. Stay with me. If you have made it through the first 4 principles, you are already in the top 10% of people who will ever hear this. But here is where it becomes operational. The next 4 principles are the architecture that holds everything together. And principle 5 is the one that separates the people who understand this from the people who live it. Principle number 5. Emotional independence is the most magnetic force alive. This is where ancient philosophy and modern science converge so directly the overlap is almost perfect. Research consistently demonstrates that the single most attractive quality in a human being is not beauty, not wealth, not charm or humor or status. It is the unmistakable sense that this person is complete on their own, that they do not need you, but they are choosing to be here. That distinction between need and choice contains everything. Seneca modeled this with his entire life. He loved deeply, cherished his friends, valued human connection as one of the highest goods. But he never confused connection with dependency. He wrote, "The wise man is sufficient unto himself for a happy existence." He wanted people in his life. He did not require them. And that difference made every relationship he had more durable, more honest, more free, because it was built on choice rather than desperation. Marcus Aurelius carried the same energy at the center of the most powerful empire on earth. He did not scan the room for validation, did not adjust his character to win approval, did not perform vulnerability to earn closeness. He simply existed with a centered stillness that communicated everything without saying a word. I am here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. And in a world drowning in people who desperately seek completion through other people, that kind of wholeness becomes a lighthouse, visible from every direction, impossible to ignore. Consider something. The fact that you are listening closely to these principles means you already practice selective attention better than you think. Stay with me. The last 3 principles are the ones that change everything. Principle number 6. Mystery creates fascination. Oversharing creates boredom. The human mind is drawn to what it cannot fully solve, to questions without easy answers, to doors that are slightly open but never enough to see what is on the other side. This is not a flaw in our psychology. It is the engine of curiosity, and curiosity is the fuel of desire. When someone cannot fully predict you, cannot fully categorize you, cannot place you in a box and move on, they become fascinated, not because you are performing mystery, but because you are genuinely more than what the surface reveals. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The person who is actively becoming something is inherently mysterious, because they are always slightly ahead of where people expect them to be. They cannot be pinned down because they are in motion. They cannot be predicted because they are evolving. And every time someone thinks they have figured them out, a new layer appears that resets the fascination from zero. Marcus Aurelius was described by those who knew him as simultaneously open and unknowable. He was kind to everyone, but his deepest thoughts lived only in a private journal no one was meant to read. He was accessible to advisors, but never fully transparent about the landscape of his inner world. This created a gravitational field that kept the most powerful people on the planet orbiting around him, not because he was hiding, but because he understood a truth about human attention that most people discover too late. The person who can be fully mapped has nowhere left to lead anyone. The practice is not to become secretive or withholding. It is to stop volunteering every thought, every feeling, every reaction the moment it forms. Let people wonder. Let them ask. Let the silence between what you share become a space their imagination fills on its own. That space is where fascination lives. And fascination is what keeps someone coming back long after novelty has expired. Principle number 7. Walking away is the ultimate declaration of self-worth. Seneca wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is leave. Not slam the door. Not deliver a monologue. Not orchestrate a dramatic exit designed to wound. Just quietly, cleanly, completely withdraw, and let the departure itself carry every message you were never willing to beg someone to hear. The person who walks away without anger, without explanation, without looking back, communicates something that no speech could ever convey. They are saying, my peace is worth more than this situation. My time is worth more than this dynamic. My life is worth more than this arrangement. And that statement reverberates through the other person's mind for months, sometimes years, because you can argue with words all day long. You cannot argue with absence. Absence is the one message that does not accept a rebuttal. Marcus Aurelius wrote, it is in your power to withdraw yourself whenever you choose. That power is your birthright. The ability to remove yourself from anything that diminishes you is the most fundamental expression of self-respect a human being can exercise. And the paradox is that the very act of walking away often creates the conditions for the other person to return. Not because you engineered it, but because your departure forced them to answer a question they had been avoiding for as long as you were present. How much does this person matter to me now that they are no longer here to ask? Before the final principle, if this video is changing the way you see every relationship in your life, subscribe to Stoic Citadel right now. The last principle is the one that makes all the others possible, and you do not want to miss what it unlocks. Principle number 8. The person you become in solitude is the person who transforms every relationship you will ever have. This is the final principle, and it is the center of gravity around which everything the Stoics taught about human connection revolves. Because the quality of every relationship you will ever build is determined by one thing and one thing only: the relationship you have with yourself. If you are empty inside, you will cling to others to fill the void. If you are anxious, you will project that anxiety onto every person who gets close. If you do not know who you are, you will reshape yourself to match whoever is standing in front of you. And every relationship built on that hollow foundation will eventually collapse under the weight of what was missing from the start. Marcus Aurelius spent his mornings in solitary reflection, not because he was antisocial, but because he knew that a man who shows up to the world without first consulting himself is a man on autopilot. And autopilot is not presence, it is performance. And every person you meet can feel the difference between the two, even when they cannot name it. Seneca practiced what he called odium, purposeful solitude, time spent alone not in idleness, but in deep communion with his own mind. Reading, writing, thinking, examining his reactions, confronting his biases, mapping his growth edges. And when he emerged from that solitude, he brought something to every relationship that the person who is always in company never can. Depth, substance, the grounded energy of someone who has done the interior work and is not asking anyone else to do it for them. Epictetus said no man is free who is not master of himself. Mastery requires time alone with the self, not running from it, not drowning it in noise or company or content, sitting with who you are, confronting what scares you about being alone, building the interior architecture that makes everything external possible, that makes every relationship richer, every interaction more honest, every connection more real. When you do this work, when you build a self so rich and deep and complete that solitude feels like luxury instead of punishment, something extraordinary happens. You stop needing people to complete you, and the instant you stop needing them, they feel it. They feel the shift in the room. They feel the space where your desperation used to live now filled with something they cannot name but cannot resist. They are drawn to the version of you that emerged from the silence. Not the version that was chasing them, the version that was building something chase could never build. If you have made it to the end of this video, you have heard something most people spend their entire lives never understanding. The path to being wanted by others begins with wanting nothing from them. The way to draw people closer is to stop reaching. The most magnetic person in any room is the one who would be perfectly at peace in an empty one. The Stoics did not teach these principles to win at relationships. They taught them to win at life. The fact that they transform how others see you is a side effect, a byproduct of transforming how you see yourself. Marcus Aurelius was not magnetic because he tried to be. He was magnetic because he was busy becoming the best version of himself. And that pursuit has always been the most attractive thing a human being can undertake. In any century, in any culture, without exception. Seneca wrote, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. Fill yours with self-respect, with patience, with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth does not fluctuate based on who chooses to stay and who chooses to leave. And watch how the world rearranges itself around the person who stopped asking for permission to exist." If this video shifted something inside you, share it with someone who needs to stop chasing and start becoming. Like this video, subscribe if you have not already, and watch the video on screen right now to continue building the unshakable Stoic mind. Thank you for being part of Stoic Citadel. Stop pursuing, start attracting, and remember that the person who is complete alone will never be desperate in company. That is the secret the Stoics understood. And now it is yours.